So the reason why that contraction happens is because, this contraction caused by selfing, it can be very, how should I say, very obvious, very pronounced, or it can be very subtle, depending on the stage of purification. But nevertheless, whether it's gross or subtle, it happens. And this is the reason why we cannot just sit and not do anything, not use any measures, because it comes. Of course, if you're not aware of it, you have never been pointed out, you haven't been told that it happens. Maybe your one is completely unaware of it, just happy in sitting, like I often say, sitting in the mud, stuck in the mud. There's tons of practitioners, unfortunately, like that. You see it everywhere when you go to different groups, people sitting in the mud. There's no use for that. There's no point in that, but what can you do? But yeah, it happens because, as long as we have any karmic files, any sense of self, which means sense of being located in time and space, it comes up, this three-dimensionality, like being located in. It just comes, whether it's gross, like a clear or a obvious sense of I-ness, or very, very subtle sense of I-ness, like a ghost, sort of like almost a transparent ghost, To make sure that our practice is useful and beneficial and correct. That's why, we use bodhicitta, or when we practice emptiness meditation, trekchö, that's why we shout pets on retreats, or, we use these different techniques to wipe the slate clean, so that we have that correct recognition, so that we can then practice effectively. We can then, with emptiness meditation, we use that proper correct recognition as a way to practice vipassana, to become aware of whatever comes and goes in the mind. So same thing. But here, as in this session, we are giving more attention and emphasizing Sambhogakaya, light body. We still have to do something about it, because if we didn't, we would just kind of it's kind of like car getting stuck on the roadside, in the mud or something. Same happens in the group dynamic, group meditation.
Yeah, I can say something.
Go ahead.
Which is quite interesting. I have the experience of my body becoming like a hologram, like almost see-through, and that kind of experiences. But this time it was quite different, because what I felt and saw now is that all my cells became small prisms of light. So they're all kind of almost like a beehive or something. They all were vibrating and they were full of light, instead of me as seeing myself as a holographic thing. And then when I opened my eyes, actually space was the same. It also had that effect, this buzzing, and I could almost hear it somehow, that every object in the room had also a sound, and they were all made from the same kind of a light. So that was new for me.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that.
Beautiful, beautiful. I was watching Ben's room. You know, you have that pink light in your room, and that's brilliant. Kind of goes with this topic. Some of you have more like a yellowish light, some have bright light, you know.
Oh yeah, you see it. Yeah.
Or is it pink? Like I'm slightly colorblind, so I might get the tone a bit not correct, but it looks pink to me anyway.
Yeah, no, it's a pinkish red,
Hmm.
and the white Wi-Fi light bulbs are kind of convenient that way, where they can change to whatever color suits your mood.
Hmm.
I did have a question actually. So earlier you had mentioned that the light body and the body of emptiness, how these aren't actually separate, but that they're sort of engaged in separate or different ways, or can be in practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess just in trying to understand it, I was thinking about the concept in yoga that I had come across, that of Sat Chitananda, talking about sort of the nature of reality being that of being, consciousness, and bliss, and how those qualities aren't regarded as being separate, similar to how, you know, qualities of water might be said to be wet and fluid and clear. Is it a similar kind of thing like this when you say that these two bodies aren't separate but can be engaged from those different perspectives?
Yes, and Sat Chit Ananda, which is a really common phrase on the Hindu side of things, but also Siva Shakti. I was just talking about this on I think it was on a winter retreat. One day there was a lot of we were flooded, really flooded by blessings of both Buddhist and Hindu Mahasiddhas for the 10 days of it. Somebody used the word epic of the winter retreat. You know, yeah, it was something special. But I was also speaking about this, you know, Shiva Shakti thing. It's exactly the same thing, exactly the same bodies, exactly the same things are pointed out, I think, with Shiva and Shakti. Shiva being Dharmakaya and Shakti being Sambhogakaya.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. And maybe as a note, something that I said on the winter retreat as well, that you know, it's kind of curious to, how do you say in English, kind of play with the thought that you know, what Shakyamuni Buddha realized, it started to develop as its own thing that we now know as Buddhism and Buddha Dharma, that, you know, became its own separate religion and, you know, its own, you know, philosophy. But, you know, if we start looking at from a different perspective, that and you know, there has been, you know, this is I think that it's quite a big obstacle in Hinduism that these bodies are not separated, because there's a lot of people getting blissed out in different types of traditional or less traditional Hindu yogas. So they just, you know, get hammered when they are chanting, you know, whatever they are chanting or practicing, or they just, you know, get wasted. And it's wonderful to a degree, but that's a dead end. So it's interesting to think that within Hinduism, that is also a vast collection of different kinds of teachings and philosophies, giving emphasis and less emphasis on different points. but that in the history of Hinduism there has been these figures like Shankara or more recently Ramana Maharishi who have given emphasis on knowledge or jnana, on wisdom, on emptiness body to make sense of it. But you know, so I've kind of played with the thought that maybe Shakyamuni was supposed to bring all this into Hinduism, but then it kind of developed, took its own path and developed into a separate religion. I'm just playing with the thought. But if that development had happened within Hinduism, it would look very different than how it looks now. People wouldn't be getting blissed out like they are. They would have knowledge of their reality. So that would be a very different situation. Let's take a break for 15 minutes, 1-5, and continue in 15.